gun was 2 feet from Bumpy Johnson's head, hidden beneath a folded newspaper, pressed against the assassin's thigh, finger on the trigger. 1 shot. That's all it would take. But the woman sitting across from Bumpy, elegant in her navy dress, laughing at something her husband just said, that woman was the only thing keeping Bumpy Johnson alive. And she had no idea she was sitting in the middle of the execution that had been 3 weeks in the planning. March 1951. The Cotton Club. Albert Anastasia, the most feared killer in the American Mafia, had sent his best man to answer one question. Could Bumpy Johnson be killed? Not would he be killed tonight. Could he be? Because if the answer was yes, Anastasia was taking Harlem. If the answer was no, if Bumpy somehow survived this test, then Anastasia would leave him alone. Forever. The assassin's name was Vincent the Snake Colucci. Trained by Pittsburgh Phil Strauss before Phil went to the electric chair, Vincent had killed 23 men. Governors, union bosses, rival mobsters. He never missed, never hesitated, never failed. But he'd never had a target bring his wife to a hit before. And that was a problem. Because Vincent Colucci, stone-cold killer, had one rule he never broke. No women. Not in the room. Not in the line of fire. Not as collateral damage. It was the code. And Bumpy Johnson was using that code to stay alive. To understand what was happening at the Cotton Club that night, you need to understand who Albert Anastasia was in 1951. He wasn't just another mobster. He was the Lord High Executioner of the Mafia, the man who ran Murder Incorporated, the killing arm of organized crime. When the 5 families needed someone eliminated, they called Anastasia. And Anastasia sent men like Vincent Colucci. Anastasia had been eyeing Harlem for years. The numbers racket was printing money. Millions every month. And Bumpy Johnson, this black gangster who'd somehow survived Dutch Schultz, Lucky Luciano, and every other white mobster who'd tried to take Harlem, was the only thing standing in the way. The 5 families had a gentleman's agreement with Bumpy. 10% tribute in exchange for peace. But Anastasia didn't make gentlemen's agreements. He made corpses. In February 1951, Anastasia called a meeting with his top captains. His message was simple. I want to know if Bumpy Johnson can be killed. Not some ambush. Not some coward shooting him in the back. I want to know if he can be killed face to face, knowing it's coming, with his eyes open. One of his captains, a man named Frankie Schatz, suggested the test. We set up a meet, somewhere public. We send Vincent. If Bumpy shows up knowing it's a trap and survives, we respect him. If he doesn't, we take Harlem. Anastasia liked it. Sporting, professional, the kind of test that separated men from corpses. He approved it. Vincent Colucci got the contract. Not to kill Bumpy Johnson, to test him. The message was delivered to Bumpy through his usual channels. A phone call from Frank Costello's office. Polite, respectful. Mr. Anastasia would like to meet with you. Discuss potential opportunities in Harlem. Cotton Club, Saturday night. Just a conversation. Bumpy listened, said nothing, hung up. Then he turned to his wife, Mayme, who was reading a book in their living room on Edgecombe Avenue. We're going out Saturday night. Dinner. The Cotton Club. Mayme looked up, surprised. Bumpy hated the Cotton Club. Too many white tourists, too much performance. Special occasion? She asked. Bumpy smiled. That cold, calculating smile that meant he was 3 moves ahead of everyone else. Something like that. Bumpy knew it was a setup. He'd been in the game too long not to recognize a hit when it was being arranged. Anastasia didn't do friendly meetings. He did negotiations at gunpoint or funerals. But Bumpy also understood something most men didn't. The Italian mob had rules, codes, traditions that went back to Sicily. And one of those rules, one that men like Anastasia took seriously, was about women. You didn't kill a man in front of his wife. You didn't endanger women. It was dishonorable, uncivilized, the kind of thing that got you labeled an animal, not a professional. So Bumpy made a decision. He'd go to the meeting, but he wouldn't go alone. He'd bring Mayme, and he'd see just how serious Anastasia was about the old code. Saturday night, the Cotton Club was packed. 200 people, tourists from downtown, jazz enthusiasts, Harlem locals who could afford the overpriced drinks. The band was playing Duke Ellington's Take the A Train. Cigarette smoke hung in the air like fog. Bumpy and Mayme arrived just after 9 in the evening. Bumpy wore his signature 3-piece suit, charcoal gray with a burgundy tie. Mayme wore a navy dress, pearls, her hair perfectly styled. They looked like they were going to the opera, not walking into an assassination. The maitre d' led them to a table near the stage. Prime location. Perfect view of the band. Also perfect view of the entire room. Bumpy held out Mayme's chair, sat down across from her, ordered champagne. Mayme thought they were celebrating something. Bumpy was calculating sightlines. Vincent Colucci was already in the room. He'd arrived an hour early. Positioned himself at the bar, back to the wall. Clear view of Bumpy's table. He wore a dark suit, had a newspaper folded on the bar next to him. Beneath that newspaper was a .38 revolver with a suppressor. Quiet, professional. One shot to the head. Bumpy would be dead before he hit the floor. But there was a problem. The woman. Bumpy's wife was sitting directly across from him. If Vincent fired from the bar, the bullet would pass through Bumpy and potentially hit her. If he moved to a different angle, she'd still be in the peripheral line of fire. Vincent had killed men in crowded restaurants before, but never with their wives sitting 2 feet away. He watched, waited, hoping Bumpy would get up. Go to the bathroom, step outside for a cigarette, anything. But Bumpy didn't move. He sat there, perfectly calm, talking to his wife, laughing, sipping champagne, acting like this was just another Saturday night. An hour passed. Vincent repositioned to a table closer to the stage. Better angle. He could see Bumpy's profile now, but Mayme was still in the way, leaning forward to hear over the music. Her head kept crossing the line of fire. Vincent's hand moved to the gun beneath his jacket. His finger touched the grip, but he didn't draw. Not yet. Another hour. The band took a break. The room got quieter. This was the moment. Bumpy stood up. Finally. Vincent's hand gripped the gun, ready to pull it. Fire 3 quick shots the moment Bumpy stepped away from the table. But Bumpy didn't step away. He walked around to Mayme's side, offered his hand. "Dance with me." Mayme smiled, surprised. Bumpy rarely danced in public, but she took his hand. They moved to the small dance floor as the band started playing again. A slow number. In the mood, Vincent watched from his table. His jaw tightened. Bumpy was dancing with his back to him. Perfect shot. Except Mayme was pressed against Bumpy's chest, her face visible over his shoulder. If Vincent fired now, she'd see the gun. See the muzzle flash, scream. 'Cause of panic. Ruin the clean exit. And even worse, she might get hit by a ricochet. Vincent had his code. He couldn't break it. Not even for Albert Anastasia. The dance ended. Bumpy and Mayme returned to their table. Ordered dinner. Steak for Bumpy. Salmon for Mayme. They ate slowly, talking between bites. Mayme told a story about her sister. Bumpy listened, nodded, smiled at the right moments. But his eyes never stopped moving. Scanning the room, he'd spotted Vincent an hour ago. Watched him reposition twice, saw the newspaper that wasn't being read. Saw the way Vincent's right hand kept drifting toward his jacket. Bumpy knew exactly what was happening, and he was making Vincent wait. Making him sweat. Making him choose between completing the contract and breaking his code. Because Bumpy understood something most men didn't. The Italian mob's codes weren't just traditions. They were weaknesses. Rules that could be exploited. And Bumpy Johnson was a master at exploiting weakness. Third hour, just after midnight. The crowd was thinning out. Maybe 70 people left. The band was playing their last set. Mayme was tired. "We should go soon," she said, covering a yawn. "Soon," Bumpy agreed. But he didn't move. He ordered dessert. Coffee. Dragging it out. Vincent was getting desperate. He'd moved again. Closer now. 3 tables away. His hand was inside his jacket, gripping the gun. He was ready to break the code, ready to take the shot regardless of the woman. His orders were clear. Test Bumpy Johnson. And the test wasn't passing. That's when Bumpy made his move. He stood up slowly, folded his napkin, placed it on the table. Then he looked directly at Vincent. Not a glance. A stare. Direct eye contact that said, "I know exactly who you are and why you're here." Vincent froze. His hand tightened on the gun. Bumpy walked toward him. Not fast, not aggressive, just calm, measured steps. Mayme called after him. "Honey, where are you going?" "Just saying hello to an old friend," Bumpy replied without looking back. Vincent's table was small, round, 2 chairs. Vincent was sitting in one, back to the wall. Bumpy pulled out the other chair, sat down, 2 feet between them. Close enough to shake hands, close enough to kill. Vincent's gun was still in his jacket, but his hand was on the grip. One motion, and it would be out. Aimed, fired. Bumpy leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. He pulled out a cigarette, lit it, took a drag. "You've been watching me all night," Bumpy said quietly. His voice was calm, almost friendly. Vincent didn't respond. "You've had 37 chances in the last 3 hours," Bumpy continued. "I counted. Every angle. Every moment I was vulnerable. 37 times you could have pulled that trigger." Vincent's face went pale. "If you were going to do it," Bumpy said, blowing smoke toward the ceiling, "you would have. But you didn't. You know why?" He leaned forward. "Because you've got a code. No women in the line of fire. I respect that. It's honorable. But it's also predictable." Bumpy stood up. Vincent's hand jerked, ready to draw. But Bumpy just buttoned his jacket. "Tell Albert I passed his test. Tell him I knew this was a setup from the moment Costello called. Tell him I brought my wife specifically because I knew your code. And tell him next time, if there is a next time, send someone who can actually pull the trigger." Bumpy walked back to his table, helped Mayme with her coat, paid the check, walked out of the Cotton Club like he'd just had a pleasant dinner with his wife, which, from Mayme's perspective, he had. Vincent sat at his table for 10 more minutes. His hand was shaking, not from fear, from the realization that he'd just been played. Outsmarted. Used. Albert Anastasia had sent him to test Bumpy Johnson, and Bumpy had turned it around, tested him instead. And Vincent had failed. The next morning, Vincent delivered his report to Anastasia in person. They met in a social club in Brooklyn. Anastasia listened in silence as Vincent explained what happened. When Vincent finished, Anastasia sat back in his chair, lit a cigar, and started laughing. Not a mocking laugh, a genuine one. "He brought his wife," Anastasia said, shaking his head. "That clever son of a bitch brought his wife." He looked at Vincent. "And you couldn't take the shot?" "No, boss. Not with her there." Anastasia nodded. "That's why you're still alive. Because you have honor. But Bumpy Johnson just taught us something important." "What's that?" Anastasia took a long drag on his cigar. "He's not just smart. He's smarter than us. He knew our code better than we do, and he used it against us." He leaned forward. "You don't fight a man like that. You don't test him. You leave him alone, because if you come at him, he'll find your weakness, and he'll bury you with it." Anastasia stood up, signaled the meeting was over. "Harlem stays Bumpy's. We don't touch him. We don't test him again, and we sure as hell don't underestimate him." It was the first time Albert Anastasia, the Lord High Executioner, the man who'd killed more people than most men could count, had ever backed down from anyone. Word spread through the underworld within days. Bumpy Johnson had survived an Anastasia test. Not by luck, not by firepower, by intelligence, by understanding the rules better than the people who made them. The 5 families sent their congratulations through back channels. Frank Costello personally called Bumpy. "You've got balls, my friend, bringing your wife to a hit." Bumpy laughed. "I've got a brain, Frank. Balls get you killed. Brains keep you alive." For the rest of his life, Albert Anastasia never moved against Bumpy Johnson. Even when opportunities arose, even when other families pressured him, he'd say the same thing every time. "That man is untouchable, not because we can't kill him, because he'll see us coming and turn our own weapons against us." Anastasia died in 1957, shot to death in a barbershop in Manhattan. Some say it was Vito Genovese who ordered the hit. Others say it was Carlo Gambino. But at Anastasia's funeral, Bumpy Johnson sent flowers. The card read, "To a man who understood honor, rest in peace." Mayme Johnson didn't learn the truth about that night until years later. Bumpy finally told her in 1965, after he'd been released from Alcatraz. They were sitting in their living room. Mayme was reading. Bumpy was watching the news. Suddenly he said, "Remember that night at the Cotton Club? March 1951? Mayme looked up. "You mean when you randomly wanted to dance?" Bumpy smiled. "That wasn't random. There was a man there to kill me. Albert Anastasia's best assassin. But I brought you because I knew he wouldn't shoot with you in the room. You saved my life and you didn't even know it." Mayme stared at him. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she said, "You used me as a human shield?" "I used their code against them," Bumpy corrected. "There's a difference." Mayme shook her head, went back to her book, but Bumpy saw the small smile on her face. Because deep down, she understood. In Bumpy's world, survival wasn't about being the toughest. It was about being the smartest. And that night at the Cotton Club, Bumpy Johnson proved he was the smartest man in the room. March 1951. The night Bumpy Johnson turned an assassination into a masterclass in psychological warfare. The night he brought his wife to a hit and walked out alive. The night he proved that knowing your enemy's code is more powerful than any gun. Albert Anastasia sent his best man to test Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy sent him back with a message that echoed through organized crime for decades. You can't kill what you can't catch. And you can't catch a man who's always 3 moves ahead.